Hello, my name is David Kostenbader, CEO of the Contact Group. Thank you for joining our live streaming interactive event, Resort Trades Innovative Sales and Marketing Town Hall, our second in a series of events. At this point, I'd like to introduce our host, publisher of Resort Trades and Resort Trades Weekly, Sharon Wilson. Sharon, good afternoon.
Thank you, David. I sure appreciate it. And I do appreciate your use of this accelerated level total teleconferencing platform. And I also wanted to thank our sponsors, which are Bob Kobeck from Customer Count and Georgie Borod Gordon from the GBG and Associates, and also thank John Loker for his help. I'd like to introduce you to Ron Roberts, President and CEO of Sage Marketing and Legacy Solutions International. I think I met Ron back in '89, and I was immediately impressed with his integrity and his high sense of ethics, and he loves people. So that appealed to me. But at any rate, his company, Legacy, he has two companies. It's Legacy Solutions. It's a custom service company specializing in overcoming legacy issues in older, mature projects that need solutions for unwanted buildup of HOA inventory, missing maintenance fees, delinquencies, and an aging owner base. And he's also president and CEO of Sage Marketing Group, which is a real estate and leisure property marketing and consulting firm. He's based in Vermont, but you can go just about anywhere, I imagine. And I hope that you'll take a moment following this session. We'll be posting Ron's biography and Shari's at resorttrades.com/learning center. Now, Ron has so many credits, I can't possibly go through them all. But Ron, thank you for sharing your thoughts. And if you'll take it from here, we're all ears.
Sharon, thank you so much for the invite. I'm really honored to be here and happy to help if I can. And David, thank you very much. This platform, which I've not seen much of this before, is fabulous, and I'm sure it's something that a lot of people could use. Sharon, thank you again for inviting me, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. And if anyone would like to send in questions later, they can use my email if we don't have time. Shari Levitin, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on the same stage with you. You're very famous for knowing exactly what to do when it comes to training and some of the issues that are out there. I appreciate the opportunity. So what I'm going to talk about today is some of the legacy issues that are out there. And if you're on this call, it's likely that you are somewhat aware or mostly aware of some of the issues that are plaguing the timeshare industry out there. And if you have an older resort and you are experiencing these issues, that's something which we can certainly talk to you about and help. What's happening, of course, in the industry is that we are now in the United States better than 50 years old. And at 50 years old, I look back and I see some of the great things that have happened. I also see some of the mistakes and missteps that we've taken out there. And those missteps can be overcome. And some of the issues that are related to this legacy process is something where we need not to give up hope, because there are solutions. And if you're one of those resorts out there that is experiencing an aging owner base, shrinking ownership numbers, rising maintenance fee delinquencies, and some unsold standing inventory buildup, that obviously precipitates some deferred property maintenance and some of those struggles. And we're fully aware of that stuff. And I get calls every week Some of the resorts I've talked to have more than 6,000 delinquent weeks and/or weeks that are owned by the HOA itself, and it's the calls are troubling in a lot of ways, but something certainly that we sure understand those problems, and we've seen them quite a bit. But in essence, there are solutions, and if you are a legacy resort, you're a developer, you're an HOA, a management company, doesn't matter. And if you're handling a resort and you watch those revenues go down, it's real important for you to take heed, do something about it, and not. And there are things out there that these resorts have certainly tried to do, and we're going to talk about some of those also. And at the same time, we very much caution you about doing nothing. And if you are interested in putting your resort back on a firm financial footing, there are a number of solutions that are at your disposal. And if you're not aware of them, uh, we will certainly try to add to your knowledge of what can be done to be able to overcome that stuff. Um, Restarting available revenue streams is available to almost every resort out there. Okay, if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, there we are. Common cures. Some of these cures that I see or people call me about, and they say, this is what we've done, this is what we haven't done. These frequent special assessments alienate the owners, and they in effect create more delinquencies, and they further sour the reputation, and I think they increase substantially the frustration that thousands and millions of owners out there often feel. Um, I've seen rental programs that they use, which help to bring in some revenue, but 90% of the rental programs that are described to me are very marginal. And renting unsold inventory or inventory that is delinquent is very, very key for you to pick up or get back some of that revenue that's missing from maintenance fees that will never be paid on that unit. Um, I also see a lot of um, companies and HOAs turning over their delinquencies to collection companies. And collection companies have a purpose, and they serve a good purpose, I'm certain. Uh, some of the collection companies that I've seen um, are have some destructive practices. I don't know how else to say it other than I'd like to see them not get onto these owners more. Prior to turning it over to a delinquency, the collection company, there are many things that you can do to not have to pay a collection company, and remedies that are available to speak to those owners and arrange for something so that you don't have to send it to a collection company, which just is going to exacerbate things. Move to the next slide, please. Uh, Legacy flu. I guess we sort of teamed it up with that, but delinquency remediation programs from the calls that I get, uh, 80% of them don't really have a delinquency remediation program in effect. Suffice to say that there are ways for you to remediate those delinquencies and get that money to come in. And most of this is not in the purveyance of some of the skill sets that are out there. If you're the head of an HOA, or you're a receptionist, or whatever your job is at the particular resort, um, these sorts of things, when somebody calls in and says, I can't pay the maintenance this year, my husband lost his job, We have to have a certain empathy. We have to have a way to deal with those things, and we have to have somebody that's dedicated. A lot of the comments I get, about 90% of them say that they don't have a resale program, and they don't think it's worth it. Anyway, they think that resale programs are not worth it. And I have to say this, and I have to say it emphatically, that if you do not have a resale program, both for your inventory and the owners who call into you and ask you to sell their unit for them, take it back, or whatever you want to call it, there has to be a program that takes care of those people. And we have gotten in a bind out there in the timeshare industry because we say we don't have a resale. Go out to the internet and see if somebody can help you. And the receptionist says thank you and goodbye, and then that's the end of it. And something happens. They go out to the internet, and there are some companies out there that I don't have to tell you are taking advantage of that. And there are good exit companies that provide a good service. So my hat goes off to the exit companies that do provide a good service and do help these people out with their problem and their issue. And whatever their issue, if they're too old, their husband has passed away, the wife's in a wheelchair. I hear it all the time, every day. And it requires a bit of empathy. There also seems to be an innate sales reticence, which is understandable, but is not very valid, because in this day and age, as Shari Levitin will tell you later, there's a real knack to sales in 2020. This is the 21st century. This is not 1983. And unfortunately, I think some of the heads of these HOAs and the management companies, who, by the way, work very hard for no money, they get very little feedback, and they give bravely of their time to help these folks out and to be able to run these HOAs and provide the promise that we made for their vacation experience. So the sales reticence, I think, stems from them remembering when they talked to their original salesperson. And if that was a okay experience, fine. If it was something that happened 20 or 30, 40 years ago, it's likely that it could have been pushy. And Shari's going to speak about this stuff later, I'm sure, and add something to that. But that pushy sales stuff, of course, is gone by the wayside. And when we speak to these HOAs, we hope that we can convince them that the sales reticence isn't necessary. The consumer frustration with the timeshare industry is not going to go away. It's only going to get solved if all the people who are involved in the industry, who understand this, take good steps to put in some effort to make sure that we take care of those people and provide for them. It's likely that we told them it's a piece of real estate. You can sell it, you can rent it, you can use it, you can give it away, you can do whatever you want. And when we told them that they could sell it, and now they find out that they can't, shame on us. So the first half of that equation is, of course, we've spent a lot of money to get them into being an owner, and we've got to spend some effort to get them out of being an owner if that's what is necessary. And I think the other comment that I'd like to make is that this COVID pandemic is really creating some more frustration with owners, because for the last 4 months, including myself, I've been locked out of using my timeshare, and I thoroughly enjoy using it, but was basically not allowed to use it, and that's going to create an even higher incidence of delinquencies and those sorts of things. Next slide, please. Restoring these revenues. What's the key to it? Well, the key to it is to think outside the box. A very key part of this entire thing is to communicate with the owners and listen carefully to what they're saying and asking. If it's a cry for help, that usually comes into the front desk. The front desk people and receptionists have to handle a lot of things with phones ringing and everything. And we are better prepared if we don't have the receptionist or somebody at the front desk handling those calls. They should be turned over to somebody, and we need to be very mindful of communicate. And I think if we communicate better, that's the beginning of helping out and having the owner understand that we care. Resort management and HOAs have to have a willingness to embrace some change. They have to very much, I think, be mindful that it isn't business as usual. And if you keep doing business as usual, the resort will eventually go out of business. It's fatal to ignore these problems. It's very important that we see that. And it will do nothing but get worse. And as it gets worse, it actually picks up steam. And it's very disheartening for me to see these resorts out there that have literally thousands of unpaying owners who can't or won't or can't get out of their ownership, but can't pay either because they're on Social Security or they're in a nursing home and some of those issues. We need to have a dedicated project person with a sincere desire to help that works with those people and has a conversation with them and tries to help. And if that person is doing their job, that should be an interface between them saying to the owner, well, sounds like what you'd like to do is sell it. We have a resale program and we'd like to help you. And if you can't say that, then you're headed for further issues and very, very serious financial problems with the resort down the road. Part of the issue is with owners calling in. I handle some resales on a project, and I get these calls are rather interesting, and they say things like, "My husband just lost his job. Oh heavens, what do I do?" Well, have you decided maybe you want this year instead of using the unit, maybe we can rent it for you and give you the money? Oh, I forgot. You telling me I can rent it? Yes, we have a rental program and they'd be happy to rent it for you and we'll try to send you a check. And that way there, or we'll put it against your maintenance fee. It's amazing how many owners forget 95% of why they bought. Do you know about your 2-for-1s with the exchange company? Do you know about your country club privileges? Do you know about your bonus days? Are you aware that you can rent it? Are you aware that you can give it away? You can do virtually a number of things. And 95% of the people that we talk to forget all that. They just don't remember that they can rent it. They don't remember they have bonus days. They don't remember they have instant getaways. They don't remember the things that are really important that got them to purchase it in the first place. If we're taking care of and helping the owners to sell, doesn't mean that we're all giving them everybody's money back. It means that we'll put it up for sale. And if your owner in-house department is working properly, you should be able to keep up with those resales from owners who are, and you have to prioritize them, the ones that are really dire calls for help. I think we should help them first. There's resale programs, exit programmers out there that just take people's money and don't sell it. To the people who are really helping with these exits, my hat goes off to you. And for the ones who take their money, I'm sure something's going to happen if you don't do anything for the money that you're grabbing from these people. The other thing that has come to mind, and I don't handle this, I have somebody else that does it, is that there are state, federal, and local grants that set up funds, and in an audit, you can find out if you qualify for any of these grants to replace windows, heating, cooling systems, and save. We've seen in our travels on this thing, these resorts saving $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month in their energy costs, depending on how big the resort is and some of those issues. So what we suggest is that if you haven't had an energy audit and you're not aware of some of the grants, they're totally free. They allow you to upgrade those energy systems that you have. And in the long run, that saves many, many thousands of dollars every year. There are lots of things that we've done in the past in this industry. We thought it was a great idea years ago to give away deeds. And if we're giving away deeds, we have to have a way to get those back if somebody defaults. And so we highly suggest that you don't give away deeds anymore. We suggest you put it in a trust. There's plenty of ways to save money and to make this work and provide for your owners and really provide the package that we originally promised them. Their promise of a vacation without any hassles forever. Okay, next slide, please. That's the end of it right there. We will turn that back over to you, Sharon, if you like, and I'll stop right there for now.
Reading our next speaker's book, Heart and Cell, really made an incredible impression on me. So much so I actually bought it on my Kindle too, even though I have a hard copy. And I've used some of those nuggets about ethical behaviors, and I've shared it with a lot of other people too. So I'm sure everybody listening knows Shari Levitin and the legacy she's created and left in the timeshare industry. My guess is most of you know that she started Levitin Group in 1997 and quickly became a phenomenon, a worldwide phenomenon as a voice of ethical sales for timeshare in over 40 countries and on 5 continents around the world. You also probably know that Shari created onboarding programs that are still being used today by companies such as Wyndham, Blue Green, Festiva, and Tara and Welk Group resorts. You probably know she did the same for Hilton, and she's worked with Hilton for the last 15 years and helped them create much of the content they use today. But Levitin Group coined the terms early on, such as third level, the 5 whys, compliance versus commitment, and excuses versus objections. And those terms are now nomenclature in the industry today. So what you may not know, however, is in the last few years since launching her book, Heart and Cell, which became an instant bestseller, by the way, it's been translated into 4 languages and was just named one of the top 100 sales books of all time. You may also not know that she was named one of the top 50 keynote speakers globally in sales. She is the top 10 sales influencers on LinkedIn and recently started, along with 20 other sales experts, a documentary film put out by Salesforce called The Story of Sales. So Shari, we're really honored to have you, and welcome to our event today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And Ron, it was just so wonderful to hear you and everything you said about curing the legacy flu. And I think if you could, I guess my question is, do you need to wear a mask when you cure the legacy flu? But wonderful information. I love your integrity. I love your focus on empathy and heart, and your really bluntness, which we all need today. And Sharon, of course, thank you for all your support throughout the years and for putting out such a great magazine. And for all of those of you who are listening that I continue to learn so much from. And there's so many friendships that we'll now have forever. I saw the list of people, and it's nice to connect with you and to reconnect with others. Everything we've been talking about, thinking about, dreaming about, planning has completely shifted in the last 4 months. I was thinking even 6 months ago, if I had heard the term coronavirus, I might have thought it was some college beer pong game or something. We had no idea. Yet here we are. And everything has changed. Everything. Look at us here having this event, not having live events, having Alexa do things for us. I was saying to one of my employees who had to be furloughed where she had to take time off because she's got kids in school. I wish we could just say, Alexa, homeschool for me, homeschool. The point is, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to adapt. So I am taking about 15, 20 minutes to talk about what is now a 2-day seminar. So hold on to your seats. Let's go. We're going to talk about 4 ways sellers must adapt to survive and thrive in this new economy. Now, before we do, let's go to the next slide. Adaptation isn't anything new. Animals have been adapting since the beginning of time. It's survival of the fittest. And I love this one because most people don't know that the alligator actually came from a prehistoric animal called Dinosuchus. And the way that alligator survived is it got thicker skin. So we can also learn from the alligator. But let's look first how our customer has adapted. And I've been fascinated with all of the new statistics about today's customer. So if we go to the next slide, this was released from Gartner, some of the information I'm going to share with you, but we have a totally different customer today. And I might argue in the last 4 months, we have a totally different customer than even in the last year or two. Now, Ron talked a lot about sales training of the 80s, and so much of our sales training was created pre-internet. And so, and even, we were involved in a lot of creating a lot of that sales training with the help of many of you and many of our leaders together. But it was created pre-internet. So we have to look at how do we need to adapt based on our new consumer. Well, let's look at who that new consumer is. And some interesting statistics just released by Gartner. If you'll go to the next slide, please. Right now, what we know is 62% of customers learn independently online and offline. So they know everything about us. They've looked at Yelp reviews before they even come in. They probably know a lot more than some of our salespeople do, which is something we need to think about. Second thing that we know, and this is huge, and should color everything we do and think about. But if you go to the next slide, we as a society, all of us, you, me, all of us are overloaded with information today. In fact, neuroscientists tell us we've created 5 times as much information and content in the last few years than in all of humankind. We are overloaded. We also know we take in the equivalent, every one of us, of 175 newspapers worth of content per day, or 74 gigabytes worth of information. So we are overloaded, you and I, but so are our customers. And what Gartner tells us is a lot of that well-sourced information that they're looking at on the internet is contradictory. So they're confused. And we all know you confuse them, you lose them. What that results in is a retreat to the status quo or a no decision because there's so much information out there. Now, add to that what we're all going through, and that is the fear of coronavirus and what our customers are going through. I just saw an article by McKinsey that said that customer motivations have shifted so drastically that we used to look for status and relationships were the reason we would travel and adventure. And now, and this is going to be critical, what do people want? Safety and security. So are we leveraging that in all of our marketing collaterals and in our sales presentations? We're going to look at that. Now, I want to add one more thing. So in addition to information overload, fear, we have low trust. In fact, Gallup tells us that salespeople are the second least trusted of all professionals. I'll give you one guess who number one is. Do we have a chat function? Can we have people write into the chat who they think the number one least trusted of all professionals are? I'd love to see that response there. I don't know if we can do that, David. Is that available to us?
No, my guess is weathermen. I'm going to just say people that forecast the weather. That would be my guess.
How about you, Ron? Any guesses there?
I'd say government.
Ron, you are absolutely
Politicians.
right. Politicians and members of Congress. So no big surprise there. So we have this very much a consumer that's adapted. So our question is, how much have we as salespeople, as an industry and leaders adapted to these changes? And I'm going to say straight out, not enough. Now, Gartner tells us, and I've had the honor over the last couple of years of being a thought leader on Gartner's panel, tells us that there's 3 types of selling behaviors today, and only one is effective. This was breakthrough for me, and I imagine it'll be breakthrough for you. So the 3 types of selling behaviors, the first type of seller is the giver of information. So the giver of information says, well, let me show you how our points work. Let me show you how time sharing works. Let me show you a white paper. Let me show you some customer testimonials. And here's the problem. We're just giving them more information. You confuse them, you lose them. So it's just not that effective anymore. It used to be. We used to hold all the cards. We used to be the purveyors of information. Not so much anymore. Now, the second type of sales behavior is the teller of information. Now, the teller of information says, yep, based on my 20 years experience selling timeshare, here's what I'd do if I were you. Well, that's not so effective either, because if you think about it, trust is at an all-time low. So the customer doesn't even really trust that. And we're seeing more low trust than ever, particularly in our industry. So what's the solution? Well, according to Gartner, the solution, and we've worked with several companies in and out of the industry on this, the solution is we need to be a sense maker. We need to make sense of all of the information the customer has already read, already heard, and already has. Again, they are overloaded. So what does that mean? Now, this may sound like a subtle difference, but it's huge. We need to help customers sort through how to buy a product like ours. What should they be thinking about? What should they be considering? I call it being a helping brand. We need to give them value by helping them sort through all this noise and show them how they can buy. No longer can we focus on the sales process. We have to help our customers decide and help them make a decision that may or may not work for them. Maybe our product isn't right for them. So if we go now to the next slide, and again, I'm expediting this very, very much. Please feel free to call me or email me afterwards, but we need to shift the way we connect, ask, add value, and engage with our customers today. I'm only going to have a little bit of time to go through each, but I love the acronym, don't live in a cave. Folks, we cannot live in a cave when it comes to how we need to adapt. So let's go to connect first. When I talk about connecting, it used to be that we would do a statement of intent or a competency statement, and we would say to the customer, by the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you all the information you need to make a decision. I just need a yes or no by the end of the day. That is not being a sense maker. And in my mind, telling a customer what they need to do when they are so educated and has so much, they've had so much information, they're just going to dig their heels in, and we're going to lose that empathy in the relationship. One of the things we've been training on, and it's been unbelievably successful, is what if we were to adapt the way we do that? We would say, folks, by the end of the day, I'm going to show you how to buy a program like ours. Now, you've probably heard that there's resales out there, there's exit companies out there. Ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss the elephant in the room, because if we don't, they're thinking it, and it will create an objection. They know. So we have to bring it up before they do. And I feel very strongly about this. We can't be in the dark anymore. We can't hide out about it. So bring it up. And we're going to look at all of these different options that you have. But by the end of this, you'll know the best way for you to spend your vacation dollars. Now, don't worry. I'm going to show you a framework so that we become the only solution. But I think this is really critical up front to go ahead and do that. Number 2, when we talk about connecting today, I believe that we need to connect customers to information they can't find on the internet. And I call it challenger information. If you've heard of a book called The Challenger Sale, the idea is to give them insights and information that they may not have already thought of that's not on the internet. So what we would say is something like, and in the case of what's going on with COVID today, 85% of consumers today feel that when they're looking at spending their vacation dollars, they want to spend it where they know they're going to be safe and secure, both physically and emotionally. Would that be important to you? That's giving them an insight about something real and important. And we're setting ourselves up to be that company that really, if you're an all-inclusive resort, how much safer is that? If you're a big, but this focus on safety and security, but bringing this up with an insight right away, because that's what's important. And finally, and I know this is a little bit controversial for some, but I'm going to bring it up. There's an old story that you may have heard about a drunk who's looking for his keys. He's looking under a big street lamp. Police officer comes up to him and says, "Can I help you?" The drunk says, "Oh, I'm looking for my keys." Well, the officer's a good officer, so he starts helping him for about 15 minutes. And then he looks up at the drunk. He says, I don't see him anywhere. Are you sure you lost him here?" The drunk says, "Oh, no, I lost him across the street." Well, the officer's exacerbated. He says, "Well, then why are we looking here?" He says, "Oh, well, the light's much better over here." Well, here's what I believe. A lot of us are looking in the wrong places today for our leads. Today, we need to employ an omni-channel marketing approach. So yes, we can use phone. Yes, we can use telesales, but I am here to tell you, if we are not leveraging social media today, this is where millennials are. This is where Gen X is. And I can also tell you that reps that use LinkedIn to find out if you're an in-house rep, why wouldn't you want to know a little bit about your customer before they come in, their likes, their dislikes? Now you can cut that discovery by a lot, build trust right away. This is the new way. This is how we need to adapt. And it's different. It's not something we've done. But again, we're in a world of adaptation. And for companies, I highly recommend that you really learn how to leverage all of these different social media platforms. Don't be in the dark and go to where our customers are. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk really briefly about ask. I want to put the bulk of my time in on value. And then I know we need to go to some questions. So when we talk about ask, and again, we're looking at the acronym C.A.V.E, we need to change the way we connect. We need to change the way we ask. Now, back in the day, we taught something called first level, second level, and third level questions. And even though those are still critical, I'm going to say today they're not enough. Also, we have a new acronym that we've been using that I think you'll find fun if you've been following us. But the first type of questions we all need to ask customers in discovery are what I now call skin questions. So skin questions are sort of surfacey, they're at the skin. And those are questions like, where do you go on vacation? How much do you spend? Who do you go with? They're surfacey. And I will say that 80% of most salespeople I talk to stop there. The second type of question are what we refer to as bone questions. Those dig a little deeper. And bone questions really reveal problems that the customer's having now. Maybe using Expedia, it's taking too long. Maybe they don't feel safe now going to an Airbnb. Ladies and gentlemen, timing is perfect for us. God, would you really feel safe not knowing what company? Oh my God, like that gives me the willies, right? But bone questions reveal problems. But I can tell you the best salespeople in the world break past the skin through the bone and get into the heart of why people would buy. Those emotional motivators, which I just said have shifted. Now safety and security is even more important than legacy and adventure. But there's two more types of questions we need to ask today, and we need to adapt. With all of the information out there, the only way we can help to really be a sense maker is to help a customer decide how to buy a product like ours. And so I call these criteria questions, and it's a little bit of a shift with a big result. And the way that works is we would say, what's your criteria for making a decision on a vacation product? What is your criteria? Don't tell them what their criteria should be, like, use, and afford. Just because I like, use, and afford something doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. But when we ask them what their criteria is, it shifts everything. So we really need to think about that. And then I would say the next thing when it comes to ask is a lot of customers have become desensitized to these why questions. We've all been asking them for 15, 20 years. There's some different negotiation tactics that we can use. I'm not going to have time to go into them, but I am finding today that buyers are getting desensitized to a lot of the old questions that we used to ask. This might be the most important thing I want to talk about, and this is how do we give value today? And first, I want to start with a definition of value because this has really shifted. HubSpot says, their sales and marketing firm, value means the clarity and action and insights you bring to your clients that they can't find on their own. This is where sense making comes into play. Again, the customer has all of the information. So what do we want to do? We want to show our customers, we want to be a helping brand, how to buy a product like ours. And what we've been training people on is what we would say is, folks, when you're looking at a vacation product, whether it's ours or whether you want to continue on Expedia or whether you're going to get a vacation club, whatever it is, there's 3 criteria you should think about. Now, this is a huge shift from what we've done. And I'm going to give you an example that we do in our company. People call us all the time and they say, hi, we're looking for a keynote speaker. We're looking for a trainer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, that's fine. And they always want to get to price right away. And then I will ask them, are you looking for entertainment or are you looking for ROI? 90% of the time they say we're looking for ROI. So I'm going to say, well, there's 3 things you need to think about when hiring a training company. Number 1, are they effective? Are you philosophically aligned? Number 2, is it scalable? Meaning, can people use it on multiple platforms? Is it scalable on one of these? And number 3, is it sustainable? Meaning, do they have a method of training trainers so the program actually lasts? So what I'm doing is building a frame. We need to do the same when selling our timeshare product today. So folks, when you're looking at a vacation program, what you want to do is think about 3 things. And again, it's going to be very individual, depending on whether you're selling pure points, depending on whether you're a brand. But here's an exercise I'm going to give you that you can do with your teams that will help you do this. There's a lot of blank companies out there. There's a lot of timeshare companies, a lot of vacation companies out there. When buying a vacation product, there's 3 things you should think about. And you want to really work with your team to think about what are those 3 things. And of course, you need to be able to do all those things. So if you're a brand, you need to think about, you want to buy it from a brand you can trust that you know is going to give you safety and security. Number 2, you may want a program, as Ron says, that has a resale component. So again, you want to give them this structure and this idea. That's creating value. You're sharing with them how to buy a product like yours. Finally, I'm going to take a minute and a half to talk about how we need to adapt the way we engage. And here's what I know. We are in a totally different economy right now. And what the numbers show is that our new millennials and for sure Gen Z want a frictionless experience. This is the Amazon effect. They want it to be easy. Customer service is everything. In fact, I've got a number here. 57% of the reason people will buy more from you is because of good customer service. You need to know who they are and you need to take care of them long after the sale. We need to communicate on their desired channel. As I said before, it might be LinkedIn, it might be Instagram. We have to have all those channels. But I want to leave us all with this thought, and that is this. When I started in this wonderful industry 25 years ago, we talked about a 90-minute tour. Adapting to our new consumer means not only changing the way we connect, changing the way we ask, changing the way we give value to buy a product like ours, but it means not engaging even as salespeople for 90 minutes, but thinking, how do we engage, not for 90 minutes, but for 9 or 90 years? Because what's going to make the difference and what's going to help us survive and thrive is to put the customer at the beginning of every single equation and service them and love them, as Ron said, long after the sale. So thank you very much and would love to answer some questions. If you go to the very last slide, you can text in a number and I'm happy to share that with you. Text the word Heart and Cell to 31996. Happy to give you the full deck, any that was done in an hour-long format. So thank you very much, and we'll turn it back over to you, Sharon.
Thank you. That was amazing. And well, both you guys, Ron and Shari, I've been taking notes, got a lot of good information, thinking about
Shari.
some articles. Now, our next town hall, of course, will be advertised on resorttrades.com. Also, Resort Trades Weekly. If you're not getting our weekly e-newsletter, please look online to Resort Trades backslash e. I think we're saying e-magazine now. So forgive me. Again, thank you to our sponsors, the Contact Group, the GM Customer Count, GBG and Associates, and John Loker. Thank you too for your help.
Everybody have a good day and good luck out there. And thank you for participating.